I have to wake up to right now? It is 10 a.m. and some prick is using a power drill and a hammer. I am literally at the verge of losing my shit. Howdy ho, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. When it comes to the special enemies throughout the Payday franchise, they've always been something that keeps the game fresh in one way or another. The Payday the Heist special enemies are very deadly and very challenging because we don't have any skills. Payday 2 special enemies are beyond the terrible. They're not even really that good to begin with, even the DOZERs. And Payday 3 are sort of in the middle ground where they're better than Payday 2, but they're worse than Payday the Heist. So it's sort of a middle ground between them, where they're kind of solid to fight off against, and they're somewhat fun in one way or another. But either way, I'm going to be talking about the Bulldozer, and as well as the lethality and why they're different, and what makes them special or powerful, whatever, you get the gist of it. What makes them special or unique compared to a lot of the other games, and what makes them deadly. Without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it, starting off with the Payday the Heist Dozer. The number one reason why I believe that Payday the Heist Bulldozer is very much deadly in the first place is mainly because of the fact that we don't have a lot of skills in our hands that provides us with some sort of armor gating effect, or some sort of immunity, or any sense of like damage increase towards a special enemy, like high value target and etc. And Payday the Heist, we're just simple criminals. We're not like overpowered shit brick houses that are injecting themselves with some questionable syringes that probably has some sort of like modified methamphetamine like in Payday 2, or like have like a tiny ass phone that is able to stun lock 90% of the enemies in the entire game. We're just simple criminals that has a gun, and that's it. That's what makes Dozers very deadly. Gameplay-wise, they're just very aggressive enemies. The minute they lock eyes on you, they're gonna try to get close to you as quick as possible and gun you down as much as you can. And even on normal difficulty, they're able to really shred your health very quickly if you're not careful, even if you have thick skin. But imagine that on Overkill or Overkill 145, which is going to be a bit of a problem because they will delete not only you, but as well as your teammates. There's a few weapons, or I guess equipment, that are very powerful against the Bulldozer. The one that comes to mind would be the AK, which I believe is probably the best weapon in the game. Again, I'm not that too knowledgeable on Payday the Heist, so if there's something that I'm missing, let me know down in the comments. I also heard that the trip mines are also very good against Dozers, as they apparently are able to one-tap them in one way or another, which I'm not really sure if it's true because I don't use trip lasers myself because I'm not a strategic type of person, so either way. But yeah, weapons... The AK is probably the best because of its high damage and high rate of fire, as it's able to dish out damage in a very quick session. Again, you kind of have to be very careful and use a lot of cover and kind of take turns on who shoots at who. And you kind of need your teammates to be able to help you out, because if no one's helping you out and you're surrounded or you get cornered by a Bulldozer, then you're very much done, because again, you don't have invincibility or any sense of like armor gaining effect. You're kind of reliant on cover and as well as, you know, who's taking turns. And I guess that's what makes him lethal, is that we're just kind of simple, and he's also kind of simple, and that's it. I guess that's the only thing I can really say. I don't really have any complaints about them other than the design being a little bit weird, but let's get into it. The design and I guess the voice actor himself is, you can barely hear what he's saying, honestly, even like when the heist has gone quiet or when the assault has ended. You can barely hear what he's saying, but honestly, I can't really say much.
Let's crash this party. Here comes the pain. Time to bring the pain.
And I think he's like the only special enemy in the game that is actually able to commentate or even speak in general, and that's it. As for the looks of it, he looks cool, but he's literally a fucking dude in a spacesuit, and that's it, which is a bit of a strange design, which I'm not really sure if this is like an actual armor that has been used by like the military or by the special forces for that matter, but I highly doubt it, because it's literally just a guy in a fucking spacesuit that just came down and got bored and is like, grabs a shotgun and just joins the police force in one way or another. Again, they're very deadly enemies, so yeah. Their looks and as well as their design are fine. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, honestly. They do stand out, but then again, their design compared to the others it's not exactly... It's not something that sticks out, if that makes sense, honestly. But lethality, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Payday 2 Bulldozers are one of the worst, mainly because of how easily counterable these guys are. There are so many weapons, so many skills, and so many perks that I cannot even count that makes Bulldozers such a terrible enemy to deal with. Oh, you want me to list of what makes Dozers terrible? Well, let's look at the skills that exist in the game. Firstly being is Overkill, High Value Target, Bloodthirst, Berserker, Low Blow, Unseen Strike, and as well as Trigger Happy. Weapons, the Amarok, the Thanatos, any other DMR with a full auto capabilities, the HRL, any sense of akimbo weapons, and etc, etc, etc. Perk text, armor, anarchist, copycat, invincibility effect, leech, kingpin, stoic, and so on and so on and so on. I cannot even comprehend. There's so many ways to counter the Bulldozer that they're even a pathetic of an enemy. Even if you don't have any sense of damage amplification effects and you just have like high damaging weapons, they're still very easy to shred because they're such dumb enemies. Even when you're standing in front of them, there's a high chance that they're not even going to be aiming at you. They're just going to be aiming at nothing. And they're so easy to stun and they're so easy to maneuver that I'm just surprised of how people find these enemies threatening in the first place. The only time you're gonna get your ass beaten is if you're in the middle of reloading or you're doing an objective. But reloading is hardly an issue Payday 2 because there's so many skills and reload speed doesn't even exist in the first place. Like the Payday 2 Bulldozer dying from one is not necessarily hard, but it's so easy to dispatch them, if that makes sense. You're so fucking powerful in Payday 2 that they're not even at the same skill level as you are. Even if you're the worst player in the game, just having one weapon that pretty much counters them entirely, you're already good to go. Grab something like a Thanatos or the HRL, and you're good to go. And you might be thinking, for some of you degenerate tryhards on Descendants, be like, well, the HRL doesn't one-tap them, so why bother? Well, for one, it lowers their health to the point where a couple of stray bullets is enough to get rid of them, or a good bloodthirst or bloodlust is enough to literally just get rid of them out of the table without a care in the world. And again, if you have something like Anarchist Armor or Copycat with the invincibility effect, then you pretty much are able to fight off DOZERs against head-on very quickly. But either way, let's talk about how they function. They don't even function in the first place. Here's the thing. Their detection is weird. Even when you're shooting them in the back, or even when you're shooting them in the front sometimes. Sometimes they won't even notice it. Especially on co-op gameplay. Sometimes they don't even notice that you're hitting them. Even on solo gameplay. Here's the thing. The doses are 50-50. They either lock onto you instantly, even when you're behind them, or they don't give a fuck about you when you're even right in their faces. Even if you have the highest detection risk in the game. It doesn't matter. And the way they approach heists is also kind of weird. Sometimes they either approach them without a care in the world, or sometimes they run away, which happens quite often, or they just kind of sit in one place and do not move at all. It's inconsistent. And sometimes when they're rushing, they just kind of stop at some weird corner that doesn't make sense whatsoever. But let's talk about the different variants of the Bulldozer and see like if they're even good in the first place, which they're not. The worst one in the game is the Green Dozer. Now, the Green Dozer, despite dealing the most amount of damage in the game, is one of the worst, mainly because of how slow their weapon is. And that's it. They're so slow that your armor is able to regenerate very quickly. Even when you're caught in the open by these guys, they're not even a threat to begin with. You're better off fighting hordes of medic dozers than these guys. Because these guys are pathetic. These are just terrible. As for the Black Dozer, or the Kill Dozer, if I'm not mistaken, if that's how he's actually classified as, is even worse than the Green Dozer. Because here's the thing. Even when the Dozer has spotted you, and you decide to just take cover or ignore them, for some reason, Dozers have a weird habit of just shooting at nothing, even when you're literally behind cover or have literally ignored them in one way or another. And that's the same thing with the Black Dozer, and they wield the Isma, which only has like 5 rounds in the magazine. And if you're someone that rocks some sort of like a damage invincibility effect, or have like high amounts of health, they're not even going to be deadly in the first place because 99% of the time they're going to be busy reloading their weapons. And even when they're rushing down at you and trying to gun you down, they're going to be reloading their weapon in one way or another. And that's another easy target for you to even dispatch. They're so vulnerable and put themselves in such a bad position so consistently that they're not even a threat in the first place. The only time you're going to get your ass beaten by these guys is, again, if you're cornered, then that's it. But if you have Bullseye ready or any damage invincibility effect again or any high health, it doesn't matter. They're gonna reload their weapons again and just can't do shit against you. And then there's the LMG Dozer, which is probably the only one that's a threatening, but then again, compared to our firepower, these guys are fucking nothing. these guys are the only ones that are actually able to deal high amounts of damage, but then again, we are powerful, so that doesn't fucking matter. And then there's the minigun dozer, which is probably the only enemy that is actually threatening to the game in the first place, but then again, crit exists, and akimbo weapons exist, so go fucking figures, I guess. God, like, I'm trying so hard to be optimistic, but these guys are so fucking pathetically bad in the game that praising them just feels bad. If that makes sense. Like, sure, despite them having double health than the other bulldozers, these guys are very easy to maneuver around, because for starters, they're very slow. And I mean painfully slow. It's gonna take them like maybe 20 minutes to get to you if they're spawned away like from a far away point. And you can really chip away their health very quickly if you know what you're doing. And they're probably the only enemy where if they get close enough, they can probably pose some sort of a threat. But just use your AI teammates or even your converts as a fucking dummy and start from there. That's it. Even if you're alone, just use cover as much as you can. And if you're surrounded, then I guess good luck. But then again, you can actually maneuver around them very quickly, and you can just do ring around the roses and then just get out of the room that you're stuck in one way or another. Again, dozers in Payday 2 are not good, or any other special enemies for that matter, but that's besides the point. But, like you might think that they're high health, being at 24,000 in Descendant's difficulty, and the Bolt minigun dozer having 48,000 health would be intimidating, but no, it's not even remotely deadly because of how often players have, including myself, have some sort of like damage amplification effects or weapons that deal high amounts of damage. And yeah, and then there's the medic dozer, which is probably just bad. They hardly do any damage, they barely pose a threat, and the only time you're getting down from them is if you're AFK, and that's it. But even then, what's the point? And another thing I can say about the bulldozers is the fact that if you get close, they will punch you. But then again, why the fuck would you get close to the bulldozer in the first place to get punched in the face? What the fuck is wrong with you? Again, just keep your distance and just fight them head on. The damage drop-off effect that Payday 2 quote-unquote has is hardly noticeable. So, who cares? Again, these guys are barely a threat. The only threatening enemy in Payday 2 are the heavy zeals, and that's it. No other special enemy in the game is deadly, except for the snipers, but they're fucking annoying, and that's it. So, yeah. But what happens if you don't have any damage or overpowered weapons? Just use cover. That's it. Peek them, shoot, retreat. Peek them, shoot, and retreat. That's it. That's all you do. And if they're rushing, then retreat. If you're cornered, then use your AI team as a fucking meat shield. I don't know, do something, I guess. Again, they're such a terrible enemy that I'm surprised that people say that these enemies are better than the third, which is not true. Which, can we be real here? They're not even deadly in the first place. As for like the design and shit, I love it. There are a lot of different variants to it, so I give them a 9 out of 10. The only problem I can really say are the Zeal units are a bit of a downgrade compared to the basic dozers we have, which is a bit of a shame, honestly, because they're supposed to be looking intimidating, which at first they do kind of look threatening, but comparing it to the basic bulldozer design, I don't know, it doesn't really look well, or it doesn't really look fitting, if that makes sense, honestly. So, I guess, yeah, that's the only downside. I give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is because the Zeal units are a bit of a downgrade compared to the basic ones. The voice actor is pretty good. The voice himself is pretty nice. You can barely hear him at certain times, which is kind of a shame, but his voice compared to Payday the Heist is a definite huge upgrade, so it gets 8 out of 10.
Wants a piece of me. Dozer, move aside! Are you sure you can handle elites? Dozer, move aside! Target in sight. Stand back! I give this guy 5 seconds.
So, yeah, gameplay-wise, 5 out of 10, honestly, or 3 out of 10, because, again, comparing our firepower to the Dozer's firepower is like making a baby fight off against a fucking hydrogen bomb or some shit, which has no competition whatsoever. And it's kind of a shame that they're even like this in the first place. But let's be honest, even when Payday 2 got released, these guys were easy to deal with in one way or another. And the minute they started like adding more perk decks, it kind of goes down a rabbit hole where they're gonna fuck up the balance one way or another. And Starbreeze are never good at balancing stuff. So, yeah. Payday 3 Dozers. They're simple. And we're kind of simple, sort of, in one way or another. Here's the thing. They're not as easy to be dispatched compared to Payday 2 Dozers unless you're one of those tryhards that uses meta weapons. The Bulldozer in Payday 3 are simple. That's it, honestly. There's only one variant, and they're slow, but they love to be very aggressive. And they do have different moves from time to time that kind of change the gameplay in one way or another. For one, if you're far away, they will try to charge at you, or if you have a human shield, they will also try to charge at you. Getting hit will cause you to be stunned and take some damage. If you get too close, they will kick you, causing you to be staggered and take a lot of damage. And if they spot you, they will start to shoot at you. And that's it, honestly. And unlike the dozers in Payday 2, where you can just kind of like break their faceplate and just be behind them and start dealing damage from there, Payday 3 dozers, you have to be facing them in order to be able to kill them, because you can't exactly do a lot of damage when you're shooting them in the back. Unlike in Payday 2, where if their visor is broken, you can do damage at any point on their head. With this one, you kind of have to be face head on, and so yeah, if you don't have any like of the meta weapons like the shotguns and as well as the deagle, then fighting them head on can be a little bit of a challenge, because you kind of have to like sacrifice one or two armor plates, because they do a lot of damage. If you're not rocking anything that's besides resistance plate. But either way, even with the resistance plates, they're able to shred your armor very quickly if you're not careful. So yeah, they only really spawn in as a heist progresses, or whenever heavy units start to roll in, and I think that's a bit of a mistake, honestly. Another problem, I'll get to the problems later, but I'm kind of over-exaggerating things. But either way, what makes the Dozer special in Payday 3 is that they're just kind of simple, and we're also kind of simple in a way. We don't really have the same, like, overpoweredness level compared to, like, Payday 2. Well, sure, we do have shotguns, the deagle, and as well as the anti-material rifle, but for that matter, you kind of have to, like, call it in and actually be able to aim at it. And that's it, honestly. Like, sure, they're easy to deal with, but they're also easy to kill you, if that makes sense. Where both of you are kind of a glass cannon in a way, sort of, not really, but it's more like a one-sided thing, where if you're fighting one head-on, then both sides are going to be able to do damage against each other pretty well. Where the Dozer is either going to shred your armor very quickly, and you can probably shred them very quickly. Again, against the Dozer, there's like a bit of a 50-50 where you either take no damage against them from whatsoever, or they do some good amount of damage against you in one way or another. And there can be like multiple Dozers of them, the same thing with like Payday 2, but then again, and they only really like spawn like far away from each other, so having them like be close to each other is kind of a rare thing. And then when they're close to each other, it can be a bit of an opposing threat, unlike in Payday 2, where you can just like press a button to stun like enemies or fucking deal with them in far away one way or another. One thing I forgot to mention about in Payday 2 is that sure, multiple of them can spawn in, or like have a medic dozer and a minigun dozer just be together. Just deal with the weaker one and then just focus on the others, honestly. That's all I can really say. Like, having multiple dozers in one is not really a problem in Payday 2, so yeah. As for Payday 3, it can be a bit of a problem because, again, we're not as overpowered as in Payday 2. Well, sure, we do have the anti-material rifle to save with us, but that's only if you're able to pick it up and call it in a safe place. If you don't, then, well, go figures. But if you have something like an SMG that has like a really good rate of fire, then you're able to deal with dozers very quickly. Again, you either sacrifice an armor plate or you play smart, because dozers have a couple of problems in Payday 3 where they're very easy to be distracted, so having like another teammate come in or like an AI crewmate like facing off against them is good enough, because they get very easy distracted and have really bad tunnel vision, which is a bit of a problem, honestly. And so, yeah, another problem about them is that anytime a dozer sees you, they have a bit of a delay before they actually start shooting, which is a bit of a strange thing. Like, there's a exactly like half a second delay before they actually start shooting at you, which is a bit of a weird thing, which I'm not sure if it's like a design feature or if it's like a bug in one way or another, which it probably is a feature because it happens all the time, even when Payday 3 was launched, so I think it is a feature to give players enough time to actually like either retreat or actually like fight them head on, which, well, either way. And another problem I can really say is that they drop armor repair kits, which is probably the biggest mistake that the devs have done, which fighting dozers should not be like an exchange where you sacrifice one armor for like one armor plate or for one armor repair kit. They should at least drop first aid kits just so that you do get rewarded, but it's not as rewarding as like armor repair kits, because armor repair kits in Payday 3 are fucking overpowered and they're everywhere in every single heist, that they should be nerfed in one way or another when it comes to quantity wise, but either way. Again, one big change I would make about the Payday 3 dozers is that do not make them drop any sense of armor repair kits. Make it into first aid kits, or make them be able to penetrate through your armor. or like be able to damage a portion of your health while they're damaging your armor. Again, their damage dish out are very good, but they're a bit of a glass cannon enemy where you either shred them very quickly or they do really good amount of damage to your teammates if you're not careful on one way. Unlike in Payday 2, where there's just a fucking joke of an enemy, where even if you're caught off guard, you're still able to deal with them. Payday 3 dozers, when you do get caught off guard, you do lose either like an armor chunk, or they do really good amount of damage to you, and you kind of have to either retreat, or you have to sort of commit to the fight. Again, big problem I have is if you have Clean Slate, and as well as Hardy, fighting dozers are just an exchange. One armor for one armor back. Again, dozers in Payday 3 are very fun enemy compared to Payday 2, but Payday the Heist enemies, or the dozers specifically, are very fun because of how simple both sides are. Payday 2 dozers, we are overpowered. Payday 3, we are slightly powerful, but then again, those dozers are a bit of a glass cannon, where they either are powerful or they're very weak. And if you're someone that rocks the shotguns for a living, then you're just kind of ruining the fun, honestly, because shotguns in Payday 3 are so fucking overpowered, honestly. It just hurts me. Anyway, as for like the design of it, the design is a bit of a slight disappointment, but they're a little bit better than Payday the Heist. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. They do kind of stand out even when they're surrounded by crowds of enemies. It's just a simple, nice design. As for the voice actor himself, it gets a 10 out of 10. He does a significant 10 times better job compared to Payday 2, even if it's the same voice actor.
I'll rip those fucking masks off and shove them up your ass. I'm gonna pound you into the fucking pavement, maggot. Is that all you got? Give me a real challenge. Come on, come on. Give me all you got, fuckers. You think you can take me on and survive?
And you can hear him taunting your ass, insulting you. Oh my god, that drill again. Sorry. Again, the design or the voice actor gets a 10 out of 10, so that's all I can pretty much say. Okay, that is all I have to offer. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see each and every one of you next time. Have a good day, and take care of each other. Bye-bye. Do not be an asshole. Now get out of my house. Shoo. Good lord.